MyBookie.ag bringing you all of our coverage from up here in Nashville. Day 3 conversation with our man Marty Smith kicks off right now.
Yeah, MyBookie.ag, code next round to get that sign-on bonus up to $1,000. This man lives in Charlotte, but he's very Nashville. I mean, this is like your town, Marty.
I love this town. I'm taken aback, though, every time I come at the growth. It's constant construction everywhere, all over the city. It is becoming urban sprawl in a shocking way. I mean, it's becoming one of the epicenter cities in this country.
Yeah.
And so many people of affluence and business minds are making their way here for a lot of reasons, but it's really impressive. I gave great consideration to moving here a few years ago. But Lainey and my kids are entrenched in their schools, and so we're staying where we are, but at least for now. But yeah. I love it here. I'm inspired here. You guys know how much I love country music and all aspects of it. I was saying to someone yesterday that I admire so much the songwriting talent and how they can just take an idea or be in a conversation like this, and someone will say something, and you see all the songwriters in the room just sort of slink down and grab their iPhone and put that line in there for later, and then it becomes this energy, and then it can become a vehicle for people who need whatever that emotion is. I just marvel at it and admire it and envy it in a lot of ways.
A lot of your friends who you do in your interviews about country music on your platforms, they don't live in Nashville immediately anymore. There's some in the Charlotte area, in the Carolinas, right? It's sort of spread out, the country music family now.
It is. And, I mean, when you look at kind of what's coming up through and who's really making a lot of noise right now kind of on the – it's with Zach Bryan, for example, it's unfair to call him on the fringes.
Right.
Because, I mean, what he's doing is remarkable. He has a new album coming out. Guys like Tyler Childers and Co Wetzel and all these guys that are there's such an amazing market for what they have to say. People want real, they want authentic. But here in town, I mean, it blows my mind that the biggest, I mean, you got basically right now it is a Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen domination. I mean, they are dominating. If you look at what they're doing on the charts, if you look at what their records are doing, what they're doing in touring, it's amazing, and in some cases historic. If you look at what they're doing on the charts, I'm pretty sure this is accurate. It might be inaccurate, but I don't think so. I think they comprise the first time ever on the Billboard chart, pop chart, that two country artists are 1-2 with Last Night for Morgan and Fast Car for Luke.
Yeah, because that is such a wild stat, because if you had said, all right, go get a song from I guess Tracy Chapman did that in the 80s, right?
88, I think.
For 88 that you would cover for a country song, Fast Car would be way down the list. Now, look, I mean, it's a slower song, but it just if you'd have told me Luke Combs covered Fast Car, I'd have laughed at you.
It's such a beautiful message.
I like it, yeah.
And so much of this anymore, and this is one way that Luke and Morgan really created a shift in the industry. It used to be you wrote these songs, you cut the songs, and you held on to those things so tight, and you didn't want anybody to know anything about them, hear them, see them, feel them, until they were pressed on a CD and out into the universe with the album release. Now what these guys do is they'll write a song, they'll go play it on YouTube or on their social platforms just to gauge what consumer interest is.
Right.
And then if consumer interest is overwhelming, they're like, well, hell, we should put this on a record.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with Fast Car.
How about that?
During COVID.
Yeah.
Luke plays Fast Car on a camera, and it just explodes. And I thought it was cool, too, to see Tracy Chapman. She was like, I never dreamed I'd be on the country chart. But I'll take it.
Yep.
I'll take it.
Did she write that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so this is really good for her.
Wrote about herself.
Yeah. But this is really good for her then.
Oh, yeah, she's making a little bit of
Yeah,
Yes.
This is a nice little revival on Fast Car.
And Luke has such great appreciation for not just taking it, for championing her and her mind and her vision for it and all that. It's it's fun. Like this is not new. It kind of cracked me up when Tennessee Whiskey came out, when Chris cut it,
Yep.
and it just exploded. If you go back and look at David Allen Coe, all right,
The Possum
George
did it.
Jones,
Yeah.
but when Chris did it, of course, with help from Justin Timberlake,
Oh, yeah.
it just.
But, I mean, I'll give you a great example of that. We were last summer out at the pool, and I had my playlist going, and the George Jones version of Tennessee Whiskey came on.
Which is a different song.
Oh, yeah, totally
I
different
mean, it's
song.
a completely different song.
Different vibe.
And my 17-year-old daughter, now 18, who is a huge Stapleton fan. You know that I told you we went to see Stapleton and George Strait up in Columbus,
Oh my
and
gosh,
that was one of her graduation gifts because she loved it.
Amazing.
Oh, an incredible show. But that song comes on, she goes, "Who is that messing up Chris Stapleton's song?"
Right.
And I said, "Well,
Right.
I'm going to give you a little country music history here." And then my dad was there. My dad's there, right? And of course, you know my dad. He's like, "And Kate, that's old No Show Jones." And he starts telling a story about how big George Jones was and how his fans still loved him, even though there were a lot of times he just didn't show for a concert.
There's a new. Have you guys seen any of this new show called like George and Tammy?
I've heard rave reviews about it.
Yeah, I
watched
saw a
it.
couple
Yeah.
episodes on I forget which platform I watched.
Yeah, I heard
it on.
Michael Shannon is amazing as
He
George
is.
Jones. Yeah,
I saw one episode on an airplane.
yeah.
Yep.
I was flying from somewhere. In fact, I think I was flying home. Laney and I went 2 weeks ago, I think, down to Tampa to see Combs play at Raymond James Stadium. And we were flying home the next morning, and I watched it on the airplane, and it is I want to binge every bit of it. It's so fun to watch because I'm just infatuated with those guys. How they got there, who they were, how we romanticize what they were and who they were. And I also constantly consider, like, what would that be today?
Yeah.
Right.
Because the rules ain't the same.
They're not
No.
the same. I will tell you that industry could chew people up and spit them out, both in their private lives and in their professional lives. Coaching can do that too.
No doubt.
Kirby Smart's going for a three-peat. But the Kirby we see the end of last year, but this offseason, seems to be a guy who's managing not expectations on the field, but coaching in his personal life really well.
I couldn't agree more. And look, when you have the obstacles that they faced, and certainly the tragedy that they have had to manage after they won the national championship with losing Willick and Chandler LaCroix, I've had in-depth conversations with Kirby about that in the book that's coming out in September, and he really detailed for me what that was like to be the person. I can't imagine being the person that everyone's looking at for the answers when there are no answers.
Right.
But you're supposed to have them. That's an unenviable position to be in. And then there's, the questions. I asked him very, very directly. There's a lot of questions about discipline and self-discipline and culture. So what would you say to anybody who questions your culture? And he says, I would ask them honestly, go talk to the kids that are still in it and why they haven't left it. I think that's who can give you the real answer. And y'all heard him yesterday at the podium. We know that there were mistakes made. We own them. We're going to do better. And I can't imagine also what it's like. He's got 100 young men in his stead every day. You can't know what they're all doing all the time. And so I feel like he's doing a great job. And to be in a position in a league like this where the parity is astounding, and be the standard, I think you're doing a really good job.
It feels like, though, that this is the inevitable outcome of massive success. I mean, we saw it in Alabama. There were always some, maybe not to this level, but there were some stories about player. I mean, it seemed like in the offseason there was something that happened. At Ohio State, you saw it. They get to the top. I don't know why that is, but it seems like when there is massive success, I don't know if more people are just looking at your program with a microscope or what.
When you are charged with, okay, so you put a staff together that you trust. Each one of those individuals has certain people under their umbrella every day. So you have to entrust them with overseeing that. But you're the face of the company. You're the CEO of the company. So you're the person that answers for all of it. And I can't imagine what it must be like to try to continually impart upon them, you are at the top of the sport that you aspired to play. You are at the pinnacle of an opportunity to develop yourself. You have to have the accountability within you as a young person to not do what you want to do sometimes, but do what's right. And that, I was an idiot.
We all were.
So many of us, the responsibility on these young people is overwhelming. But that's what you signed up for, because you're at a school like this that gives you the opportunity to propel yourself to what your dreams are. So it's not all on the coaches. You can teach, but they have to do.
Yeah.
You know, when a guy like Jimbo Fisher rolls through the Marty and McGee set here at SEC Media Days, could be a really good year for Jimbo. And he's got Bobby Petrino there now. What was the first thing you guys wanted to know with Jimbo?
What did you learn from 5 and 7?
Right.
That was the first thing I asked him, because Jimbo told me riding horses around a cattle farm after he accepted the job at Texas A&M. I said, what is success? How will you define it? And he said, win the West, win the SEC, win national championships. It wasn't like, hey, we're going to ease into this. Like, that was his answer. He hasn't made the college football playoff yet. He probably should have in the COVID year. That's an opinion for everybody to have themselves, but it's got to be better. And I think the first most important step for him was you have to be a CEO.
Right.
You have to. The nuance today of being a coordinator is so all-consuming that you can't be pulled in all these different directions when you have to worry about, how do I attack Alabama's weaknesses on the deep? How do I attack LSU's weaknesses? How do I block Harold Perkins on every play because he's an animal? Oh, I got to go over here and meet these donors.
Right.
I got to go over here, and I got recruits coming in for the tennis team and the volleyball team, because that's what those guys have to do. And so if he can, we don't know yet. He can say all day long, but we don't know yet. If he is willing to take his hands off of the offense and let Bobby Petrino do Bobby Petrino, then I think that, like, they have the dudes.
Yes.
They got dudes, man. I like Wegman. I think their wide receiver core is one of the best in America. So that Petrino Jimbo thing is going to be a fascinating study.
But if he's smart, he lets him call the plays.
Yeah, but he's yet to say that.
Yeah.
But he because I asked him, why was it right for you to let somebody else call the plays?
And what'd he say?
Not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many people look at that and say, boy, this is a great idea. I mean, on the surface it is. Like, if you could pull away the type A personalities that they both are, on the surface it's a great idea. But again, that's two very hardcore type A personalities.
I hate to keep going back to the book, but I am. Because this is all part. Delegation is one of the chapters of the book.
Right.
And I talked to 20 different people about the empowerment that comes with delegation. Kirby Smart actually told me I was not living up to my potential as a leader and as a head coach until I was willing to take my grips off of everything and let other people do what I hired them to do. That's when we started winning national titles. Think about Saban, okay? There is maybe Mac Brown. Mac Brown might be the only figurehead, right, that has more asked of them than Coach Saban does. Every recruit that comes to Alabama, no matter the sport, goes into his office.
Mm-hmm.
All of them.
All of them.
All right? So Coach delegates to these guys. They all have responsibility for the overall success of the Alabama Crimson Tide, but he has last right of refusal. He can veto anything he hears every play call. He hears every defensive call, and he can veto them. But he's like, okay, I have hired you to help us win.
Yep.
Is there a commonality? I'm going to ask you about two people you know well and then the group of SEC coaches. Is there a commonality between the pressure on a guy like your buddy Eric Church, the chief, to continue to be great and produce hits, the pressure that Dale Earnhardt Jr. faced taking the mantle of a sport on him, and the pressure of these coaches? You know all these guys. Is there a commonality in the pressure they feel, you think?
I think so, especially between the artist and the coach, and that is because what you did yesterday doesn't matter as it pertains. Yes, it's nice, and yes, it has a legacy all in and to itself.
It pays the bills.
But you're constantly judged by what comes next.
That's right. Yep.
You can have you can have an historic record. I remember talking to Morgan Wallen. Morgan called me and asked me to write his album copy for this current album that he has out now. And so I came here to Nashville and spent a whole day with him. And there was Dangerous was an historic record.
Right.
So what's the anxiety that comes with can you do it again? It's no different for these guys that are on the sidelines.
Yeah. Why didn't you include Junior though? You boiled it down to the.
I think because Junior's context is so different. Junior's context was I lost my father. My father was an icon. My father was Superman. And if I don't race, if I choose to go ahead and hang up my helmet, then an entire industry is going to suffer.
Yeah, because he was having to heal himself, and an entire industry turned to him and said, hey, go heal us. So it's like he was having to find healing for himself, but also heal a bunch of other people himself.
He raced, so everybody raced.
No, I mean, it's wild. I don't know anybody's ever had to do something like that.
And not only that, I mean, you make a good point there, Brownie, that he, for years, even still, he can't go to the gas pump. He can't go to the restaurant without somebody walking up going, man, I loved your daddy.
Yep.
Like Kelly, his sister, told me, I wrote a story in 2008 for ESPN, the magazine, when he went to Hendrick Motorsports. And there was this, Kelly, his sister, told me that it took them years to even begin the healing process because they were trying so hard to heal everybody else.
And
that's
wild.
It's he's like, man, you got to quit talking about that. But what he did and the weight he carried and the grace with which he carried it, I don't know anybody else who could have done it.
Yeah, it's got a great documentary that it seems like it's going to be a healing project for him, that Becoming Dale Earnhardt. That looks like it's going to be really interesting.
Did you listen to the first episode?
I haven't yet. I've got it ready to go.
It's so good. The evolution of Dale as a person, from the guy I met in 1998 to the person that I know now, it's remarkable, and it's a testament to the power of a woman's love and how Dale had all these walls built around him, and he had a lot of people around him that might not have necessarily had the right intentions, and Amy came in there and with just authenticity and genuine care dissolved those walls, and the person that came out of it, the Dale Earnhardt Jr. that emerged from that, is one of the sweetest, most open hearts, and it's just awesome to see.
He said, I was watching his podcast, and I think back to Nick Saban when he first got to Alabama, and locally they used to do local Ford dealers with the two football coaches, and I saw Nick Saban driving, and I imagined what I knew about Nick Saban. That was probably the shortest drive ever. He said, I'll drive it down the street and get out.
This is going to be a one take. You better get it right the first time.
Because he did not look like a Ford truck driver.
Yeah.
Dale Jr. was saying, we were on our way. We had just signed the Budweiser deal sponsorship, and we're on my way. And I asked my dad, do I have to drink a Budweiser? He didn't drink. He had not drank Budweiser, didn't drink beer. And he said, hell yeah. and you're going to have one in front of you all night long. And I thought that was a good story there, man.
All right, he's Marty Smith. The book comes out when again?
September 26th, called Sideline CEO.
Sideline CEO, a ton of great coaches in there. Go ahead and pre-order that. Our coverage presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round to get that sign-on bonus up to $1,000. Also, Woodbridge Wines, proud partner of the Alabama Crimson Tide, bringing you our coverage of SEC Media Days. Woodbridge Wines by Robert Mondavi. Wines are fruit-forward, smooth, made for sharing. Woodbridge Wines offer you a wine that doesn't get uptight about wine. You can have wine your way. Visit woodbridgewines.com for delivery or find out where you can buy locally. Woodbridge Wines by Robert Mondavi. Please enjoy responsibly. It's always good to see you. We appreciate the time.
Appreciate you guys, man. I love y'all.